Hello everybody, welcome to our Life or Biz Wisdom for this week. And what I wanted to talk to you about tonight is why self-compassion can actually help us be more productive, help us with our productivity. So I'll start off by just saying what I think self-compassion means, give you some examples from home life as well as business life that I can then explain in relationship to productivity, and as I said, how self-compassion can improve our productivity. So what do I mean by self-compassion? Basically what I mean is being kind and compassionate to ourselves, be self-loving in regards specifically, well, to everything, but specifically, I'm referring to when we don't perform, inverted commas, or have things turn out the way that we want. So if I give a couple of examples, it can be in relation to productivity. It can be things like you've got this list of things you've got to do for the day, your to-do list, and by the end of the day, you've only got, let's say, half of the things done, or maybe even less. And for a lot of us, unfortunately, we can actually set ourselves a pretty high standard and expect that we're going to get all those to-dos done because they're to do. They're there to be done. So we need to get them done. And if we don't, what can happen is that we can start then to judge ourselves and criticize ourselves and feel bad, inverted commas, because we haven't done all those to-dos. Another example might be you're procrastinating. There's something that you've been wanting to do for quite a long time and you think, yep, today I'm going to do it. And what happens? Things get in the way. You decide you don't feel like it, or you're just waiting, got to wait for something else, or somebody interrupted you, and in the end you procrastinated. And unfortunately, what can happen particularly with things like procrastination, is that the effect accumulates, and we can feel bad the first time. Then the longer or the more frequently we procrastinate on something, the worse we feel again and again and again, each time that we don't actually do it, each time that we continue to procrastinate. And of course, what can happen is that our self-esteem can really be affected. And we are therefore so much more removed from what I think is our natural self-loving state. And if I think about, let's think about for a moment kids. We all know the kids don't like to be yelled at, and we know we don't like to be yelled at as adults. And I remember when I was a kid, if I was told off and yelled at, I was scared. I wasn't taking in what it was the person was actually saying. It was more about, oh my God, I'm in trouble. This is, not good. Are they going to hurt me? Or just the feelings of being yelled at. And then I would actually often criticize myself of why didn't I do it? I mean, sometimes I didn't, but I often did. And what I'm getting at is that it didn't really help me to improve, certainly probably not in the way it would have if the person had, whether it was my parents or teachers, had actually spoken to me in a loving, compassionate way, where I didn't have this fear or these barriers that would be set up if they were angry or yelling and stern and not, as I said, what I would think is loving and compassionate. I would be so caught up in defending myself, protecting myself, that I wasn't then. There was a barrier and I wasn't able to take in what they were saying usually as well as it could have been. So that's what happens when we beat inverted commas, ourselves up. As adults, when we're doing things at home, whether it's in our business, if we feel that we have fallen short of what it is that we're wanting to do. And it can erode our self-esteem, as I was saying. And often it's actually, it's not even an effective strategy. And I know it's often not premeditated. It's reactive rather than proactive. But it's not effective. And so I honestly believe that a much more effective approach is a self-loving inquiry as to why things haven't been done, whether, as I said, it could be the example of procrastinating, or why is there, the house is in a mess and I had a bit of time today, but I just couldn't get to cleaning it up as well as I wanted to, or at all, or whatever. And the thing that I would really suggest that you do, instead of what can be a default form of behavior for a lot of us, particularly those of us who are perfectionists, because if we have those high ideals, those high standards, they're often unrealistic, or we might achieve them some of the time, but not all of the time. Achieving them all of the time can be unrealistic. And when we fall short, that's when we can often criticize ourselves. And a better way, or as I said, a more effective way, is to actually look at the context to why whatever it was wasn't done. So for instance, if you had your list of your to-dos and at the end of the day you've only got halfway through, what I would suggest you do, rather than the judgments coming forward, is to make the time to reflect. That's the first thing. I'm really big on reflecting and the benefits of doing that. Because when we reflect, we're giving ourselves the gift of time and thoughtfulness to identify what actually is, what happened in that circumstance, and what have we learnt about it, and how can that then be used to change what we do going forward. Whereas if we just, as I said, just put ourselves down and, oh God, why didn't I do that thing that I've been meaning to do? For the last few days, I know it's important and I still don't do it. And that sort of thing. I don't know if you've ever heard yourself speak like that. And if you have, or somebody else has told you that they talk to themselves like that, then you'll know what I'm meaning. As I said, it can really, really be absolutely disempowering. So I suggest the time to actually clearing out the time, because this is really important, to be able to reflect on what happened. And to actually this inquiry of asking yourself, okay, well, was it a realistic expectation to begin with? Was it okay to have 10 to-dos on my list? Maybe it was if they're only small things and you had all day to do them. I don't know. That's going to depend on the situation. But maybe there were too many. It wasn't realistic. Or maybe the procrastination, when you reflect on it, happened because you didn't know the next step with a process. So that's often a cause for procrastination, not always, but often. We can actually not know what the very next small step is. And then what happens is overwhelm and confusion can come in, and then we can tend to give up and just put something off. So commonly in business, it might be the technology side of things, or it might be looking at the financials. And if we don't understand what the process is or the next step, then we can, as I said, we can think, oh, that's just too much, I'm going to do it later. So if that's the case, that might be something that you realize when you start to reflect on why the thing wasn't done that you wanted to have done. And then that gives you the information to then be able to identify what might be some solutions. What could you do to actually achieve that thing. And that could be something like getting some help. Could be Googling, could be asking somebody for some help. Or it might be actually allocating more time to something because you realize that you had allotted yourself half an hour to do something that actually really took longer. Or it could be, well, I actually have too many to-dos and I need to prioritize better because I can't do everything all at once. So when we give ourselves the time, the space to be able to reflect on when things don't happen the way that we want them to, and we're doing it in a loving, peaceful way, I suggest actually sitting down and creating a quiet space. And sometimes I'll actually meditate on it and see what comes up and actually ask myself the question, you know, what's going on here? How does my body feel? I've talked before about doing a body scan. Where do I feel the tension? When I ask myself, why did this happen or not happen? Where do I feel it in the body? And asking it to speak to me, the body part. And it's amazing what can come up. But you need to be able to create the space to be able to do that. You can also journal it if that's something that you want to do. And again, it can come through. When we don't meet our expectations or what we think we should be doing, there's reasons for it. And sometimes those reasons are really obvious, but not always. So giving yourself the permission to be able to unpack it, as I said, in a loving way, almost like what is referred to often as the observer or the witness, as if we're actually out of our bodies, above ourselves, looking down, and that person looking down on, or that part of us looking down on ourselves, isn't judging, they're observing or witnessing. And that's a huge difference, because when we start judging, we start the contraction, and then we're into fear, and we're not actually open and expanded to be able to receive what the answers are from our own subconscious, from the universe. And then we're not able to listen to what might be some solutions or a better way forward. But when we allow ourselves the time and the space to reflect, the inquiry into what it is that's happening for us, then that can lead us to the solutions and a better understanding. And it just feels so much more beautiful. I mean, I'm Libran, I'm into harmony. I'm not into conflict anyway, whether it's with myself or other people. But I have been perfectionistic in the past and I have criticized myself. And it's something that I continue to learn, but I have come a long way in using this self-compassionate approach to be being inquisitive rather than judging. And I can absolutely guarantee you that the solutions will be eye-opening for you and will be so much more effective when you implement them than anything that might have come up when you were feeling when you were being self-critical and feeling so small and, beating yourself up. Because as I said, that just closes everything rather than opens everything. And when you do that with things, well, obviously anything in life, but particularly around productivity, you will create more time, more energy, more space. You will learn to prioritize better. Another big area is learning to say no in terms of boundaries, because we can often beat ourselves up and think, oh, what did I say yes to Mary Jo when I've already look at my to-do list. I've already got these things to be doing. And there are reasons for that. And I'll be doing more videos around boundary setting and maintaining, because it's a really big thing for us as women. And it's particularly for in the helping, the service-based professions or niches, specialties, and also for particularly if we are creative and spiritual. We may well be empaths and highly sensitive people, and the boundaries are not always so firm. So I will be talking about that going forward. But for now, I want you to really consider the self-loving approach rather than the self-beating up approach, and giving yourself, as I said, the time, the space to reflect, listen to your body. Your body has the wisdom, your meditation, your mind as well. And then the solutions will come, or the very next step. Doesn't have to be everything. The very next step is fine, to then be able to try something different and have a better result. So as usual, I would love to hear how that goes for you. Any questions you've got, any comments, please do put them in the comments below. And also, I invite you to contact me if you would like some support with working out how you can have a better approach to how you treat yourself in regards to doing or not doing the things that are going to help you with your productivity, as an example in terms of your life more broadly, whether that's at home or in business. So I'll leave it there and wish you a great week, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Okay, bye for now.